Hi, I'm Millie. I am autistic and ADHD, and I make videos here about my experience of being neurodivergent. And last fall, I went on one of my dream trips. I love theme parks and roller coasters, and I really especially love Disney theme parks. So last year, I got to go to Walt Disney World, and part of what made that trip possible to do, being a disabled person, having lots of health issues, was Disney's DAS program, the Disability Access Service. And I made a video on this channel before. I'll link that below about when I was preparing to go on the trip. So just talking about all the aspects of accessibility at the Disney parks, like specifically Walt Disney World, and and then specifically about the DAS program. So now I just want to talk since I'm back from the trip and I experienced applying for the program and being accepted and going to the park and seeing how it works. And now I just wanted to talk about yeah, how that all went. So I didn't get a chance yet to talk on this channel even about going through the registration experience. I just talked about what to expect in the registration. There might have been some changes since then, but I found the actual registration process really, like that in itself, inaccessible for me. Like I got through it, but it was extremely stressful and honestly almost did trigger a meltdown. It was just exhausting, and part of it almost went wrong. I'll talk about that in a sec. It's just ironic. Like, I don't know if they're understaffed. Like part of the problem is that when you're actually making you're putting your request for video call, and then you're essentially like waiting on hold, but on a video call, but for hours. I've heard of some people waiting 3 or 4 hours. I think I waited 2 hours or something. So with me already having a lot of anxiety about calls and talking to strangers, and then with ADHD, the like attention issues, like trying to pay attention, because you have hours, but then suddenly when they answer, if you don't respond, within, I don't know if there's an actual time limit, but basically if you don't respond right away, they're going to give up and move on to the next person. So I don't know if maybe they're expecting everybody using this would just have somebody to help them do the application. Like that's always a nice thing if you can have that, but that's something I've talked about this channel before, being an autistic adult, when you have support needs, but not super high support needs. Sometimes it's hard to get any help with these kind of things, and you just end up kind of having, like, this. I just kind of end up having to just do it myself. Once I did get on the call to talk to the person, there were some tech issues, and I'm usually very good at that kind of stuff. I'm just very good at computer stuff, have lots of experience, and but there was an issue that I just couldn't have foreseen because they don't give you. This might have changed now, but I didn't have any kind of troubleshooting guidelines before connecting to the call or anything. It was just meant to be very simple. Just click this thing and allow the permissions, which I did, and it should work out. And then I think the video wasn't showing up or something, and I had allowed the permissions, and I was like, oh, what's going on? And then I was kind of panicking, trying to scramble this out in real time, and that was adding to the stress. And it ended up turning out some silly thing, like because I was using a Mac, the person I was talking to didn't even have any concept that I would be using a Mac or not be using an iPhone, like I was just using a Mac desktop. And then there was an issue with Chrome on Mac, or I don't know, and the person wasn't very helpful at all. Like they didn't seem to be trained in how to do troubleshooting. So they just put it on me to just like, oh, just see if you can try stuff and figure it out. So I was kind of flustered and just trying to figure it out. And what made it worse is they were pretty soon they're like, if you don't figure this out in 10 minutes, I'm gonna have to move on to the next person after waiting for a couple hours. So then I was just extremely stressed out. And luckily I managed to just on my own do some Googling and figure out what was going on. And, just with a minute to spare or something, they were able to continue. So anyways, seems unnecessarily stressful. I hope they can streamline that and at least put more people on so that people aren't waiting so long. Like at least if you have a try again, if you've only been waiting 10 or 15 minutes or something, it wouldn't be so bad. And then the really good advice, I think I put in my other video, I'm so glad I got this advice from somebody else, was you get some DAS pre-selections for rides. So each day you get a ride that you can pre-select before you even go on your trip. So then you have one ride that you already have your your pre-selected time where you can just show up there and then go to the shorter line, like the lightning lane line. So it's nice to have those pre-selected. And then when you're there on the day, you can then go ride by ride and select the ones you want to do. But it's just a nice option that you can have one just ready to go before you even get into the park. But you really want to know the rides and have ones pre-selected because you go into the call and then they just ask, they're like, oh, which ones do you want to do? And you need kind of a first selection and then a second choice and maybe even a third choice if that one's not available. So that was very important to have ready because otherwise I would have probably had to call back and then wait another couple hours or something. I think they said they were moving that to doing it as just an online registration. So I hope they've just done that because, again, doing that live when you've gone through the stress of the actual call. And then, basically they're just asking you what's preventing you from being able to stand in line. And so I talked about that more in the other video, but for me, that's things related to autism and ADHD and being overwhelmed by being around too many people. And I have IBS and stuff and issues with heat. So it's overwhelming and, I get panic attacks and meltdowns and just overwhelmed and get exhausted by the noise and too many people and stuff. So anyways, I was explaining those kind of things. And because I have all my medical documentation, I've talked to other people with disabilities as well. It's like, I'm like more than happy to give the documentation I have. I know some people aren't as lucky to have official documentation, medical documentation, but what I'll talk about later, unfortunately, is like a lot of people have been just scamming the system to essentially get a free, like similar thing to Genie Plus without having to pay for it, which is just really awful. And I'll talk about it in a bit, but they've made them actually change the DAS pass to make it more restrictive now because so many people are doing that. And when I was on the call, it gives me this kind of internalized ableism, like feeling like, oh, like, do I even really need this? Am I justified in this? And I want to give my documentation to shows like that I am justified in having this disability pass. But I think the way the laws work in the US or something, they just, even when I wanted to bring up any medical condition, they're like, no, I can't hear about that. No, just tell me why you can't wait in line. But I think that vagueness has made it too easy for people to game the system and gain access to this program when they shouldn't be. And the consequences are high too. If you lie about this, then they can ban you from the park forever, I think, and take away your tickets for future, the rest of your days of your stay and everything, revoke your ability to stay at the hotels and stuff like that, I think. So the consequences are high, but still apparently a ton of people are falsely applying for this program, and I guess they just have a hard time, proving. I don't know how they would prove who's doing it legitimately or not. So again, that's maybe, I don't know how they could do this, but if people have their medical documentation, that'd be a way to prove it. But anyways, so yeah, the rest of it was kind of fine. I just said those reasons why I couldn't wait in line, and that was good enough, so they approved it. It's stressful too, because you have to do it within 30 days of going on your trip, and you already have your trip booked. So, I was worried. I'm like, am I going to get this? Am I not? But luckily it worked out. So again, now they've made changes and made it more restrictive. So before, DAS was for anyone with a condition that prevented them waiting in line. And what it is currently is it's only for people with who are autistic, like it says ASD, autism spectrum disorder, or similar developmental disabilities. I think that was the wording on the website. I'll leave a link in the description as well to a link to the Disney website for the DAS program. And yeah, this is controversial because before it was just whoever had medical issues that prevented them from waiting in long lines. So that covers a lot of things like IBS, Crohn's, people with PTSD, cancer, MS, like there's a tons of things. And for people who don't know, DAS is just applying to waiting in line. So the physical disabilities, somebody who uses a wheelchair, that kind of thing, that's actually covered under a different accessibility program. So DAS is really just focused on waiting in line. But there's still a lot of other health conditions that, of course, like make it really difficult to stand in a long line in the heat with lots of people around. So I've been reading things about now people getting denied, which really, really sucks. And it sucks that people with health issues and disabilities, like they're the ones that are getting punished because healthy people, like just non-disabled people, are taking advantage of this wonderful system that makes it so I can go and other people like me can go and do these things, which really is, yeah, it's really terrible. So my actual DAS experience in the park when I got there was, I was like a bit wary of how well it would work and how much it would help. And yeah, honestly, it was fantastic. It really helped me a lot. I'm so happy that exists, and I'm so happy that I was able to use that because it made the trip so much more enjoyable. Um, I'd say the only real negative to me was, I mean, the application process, but being there, there's just so many things now that are focused on the Disney app, and having to constantly book these times, like going to the ride, and then you book your time for the next ride. So quickly, the way it works, I haven't watched the other video, is that they take the current standby time, like say I want to go on Space Mountain, and the standby time is like the current wait time for people who aren't paying for any skip the line type thing, Genie Plus, that kind of thing. So they say it's an hour. So I just say that's the next ride I want to go on. And the system looks at the thing, says like, okay, it's 2 p.m. now. The standby wait time is 60 minutes. So you can come back around 3 p.m. and you get kind of a window to come back. And then once you go back, you don't have to stand in the long line. You just stand in the shorter, like lightning lane line that people pay for. Um, and but just all the management of the app, like I was focused on just surviving and doing my things for self-care and pacing myself, and I found just managing the app and the planning was a little overwhelming. So if you have somebody along with you who can help and take off some of that burden of doing the planning. I think that would be a helpful tip. But yeah, it kind of worked in the end exactly how I expected to. Like I said, after each ride, we made a selection for the next ride, and then that just gave me the time to do my self-care things. So I had this plan that I made with my counselor and my occupational therapist, and so that was things like my friend that I'm with, to remind me to drink lots of water, take lots of breaks, reminder to eat, because I get way too excited because it's my special interest, and then I want to just go ride rides and forget about eating. And I got so hot, I found it hard to eat and have enough calories and stuff. One thing that really helped me personally is like I was taking salt supplements for heat, and I don't have a diagnosis of POTS, but I have a lot of heart issues and suspected POTS, so I have a lot of trouble dealing with the heat. So Florida was a huge challenge. So we were like using that time that we didn't have to stand in line to just find air conditioning wherever was possible, have lots of cold drinks, water, find shade wherever possible, take breaks, get away from the noise because I'm so noise sensitive. I wear my earplugs as much as possible, my light sensitivity glasses, use my AAC app to speak, my text to speech when I couldn't speak, and then staying away from crowds as much as possible, which means like staying away from the lines as much as possible. And then, yeah, once we came back for return time for the rides, our waits were probably average around 15 minutes, so not bad. And a lot of those rides, the wait standby time was like 60 minutes to 2 hours. And it was a fairly busy day that day. I think I saw on a website that tracks the how many people are in the park on a scale of 10. I think that was like depending on the day, because we were there 5 days, so it was like 6 or 7 busyness. So yeah, I was really happy with our wait times when we went back. It was manageable. And yeah, so DAS just allowed me to do the things I need to do to take care of myself. And because of that, I was able to ride more rides and stay in the park longer. It's like a really expensive trip to go on, so I just want to maximize my time in the park as much as I possibly could. And it still definitely did not last all day. You know, we just went home all exhausted in the early evening, and I always wanted to go back to the park, but you know, still I got to do way more than I possibly could have done if I would have had to stand in the full lines. And yeah, so DAS, I feel like it's a really great program. I'm a little worried about the restrictions now. You know, I'm autistic, so I should still be able to get it, but just for other people that also need it, you know, that doesn't seem fair for them anymore. And yeah, I will put more links to the program and the information you need to apply for DAS if you're going to Disney, and my other videos about my Disney trip in the description below. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.